Okay, we are live. So we're learning the Maimer B'Shah Shehikdimu, Tavshin Lamed Ches, which the Rebbe said on Erev Shavuos. This in that year, Erev Shavuos was on Shabbos, and the Rebbe said a Maimer. Where are we? About Shavuos on Erev Shavuos Shabbos. So we're on page Reish Pei Ches. It's the paragraph which begins. Is there another copy? Is there another copy?
I'll guess which chelik is it?
It's not Shalom Ches. It's Bilti Moga. Yeah, Bilti Moga. Okay. We're on page Reish Pei Ches, at least in the print that we're using, and it's the paragraph that begins being Ksiv.
Okay.
Moshe, I sent you a link last week, so maybe you could just use it there. So last week they asked the question, what's the chiddush of Matan Torah? What's new? Reish Pei Ches. Yeah. The question is, what happened new on Matan Torah that didn't happen before? The Rebbe goes through a series of things, of Giluyim, of revelations, of accomplishments. Lost him?
No, he donated the safe. He said he's going to go upstairs
To get his own. Very good.
Use it. Might as well use the safe.
What does it say? There's a Ma'amar Chazal about that. That when you help somebody else, you yourself get help from it first. About Kolpanim. So the Chura, we already had all of the high Giluyim we already had before Matan Torah. Yeah. Eshtins, there was Bo Midbar Sinai. The Yidden came on Eish Chedesh, B'Chedesh HaShlishi, there was the Gil of the Chedesh HaShlishi. We're not going to go through all of it again, but this is what we learned last week. There was the Maila of B'Chedesh HaShlishi, there was the Maila of Bo Midbar Sinai, in the Midbar, the Giluyim of the Midbar. There was the Maila of B'Chedesh Hazed, that everything was Begilui. There was the Maila also of Sinai. We'll get to that in a moment. There was the Maila of Eichan Sham Yisrael, Ki Ish Echad B'Leiv Echad. There was the Maila of Nasa v'Nishma, Shehikdimu Nasa l'Nishma, and the Maila of the Shnei Ksarim, of the two crowns that the Malachi Hashar is tied, that the Malachi Hashar is crowned the Yidden with. The page numbering will be a little different than that, but it's the same exact thing. And also the paragraphs might be divided differently, but there should be a paragraph in Iksiv Vayadaber. I'm sure that's going to be in the beginning of a paragraph over there also, about midway through the Maimon. Good. Okay, so we had all the Iluyim, including also the Iluy of Midbar Sinai, like the Rebbe explains that was Pshat Sinai, that there were two things that happened in Midbar Sinai. First of all, the Yidden got Ribui Teva, right? Because Har Sinai is called, given 5 names. Chamisha Shem is Nikrula, Har Elikim, Har Chayrev, Har Gavnunim, Har Sinai, of course, and then the 5th one I still don't remember all the way from last week. It's a pill I still remember 4. But all of these things were milas of good things that were given to the Yidden. And the other part of it was that you're the Sina Lumas Elam. The Rebbe explains, in other words, that by Har Sinai we also have the Ilui of Dira B'Tachtenim. In other words, there was also a Sina that came down to this world that the Teira is Mateshas Keicha. The Teira weakens the Nefesh Ba'amis. And L'chura, we asked last week, why does the Teira have to weaken the Nefesh Ba'amis? Maza Negeya. L'chura, what you want to do is you want to strengthen the Nefesh Elikis and the Nefesh Ba'amis, let it disappear. No, because the vart is that we want to make over the Nefesh Ba'amis. You want to transform him. You want him to stay, and you want to work with him. You don't want to obliterate him. You want to have an Nefesh Ba'amis, but you want this Nefesh Ba'amis to serve the Eibishter. So for that, you have to first make up a Sazeh Chakika Kloas Kilo Neymar. You have to weaken him so he should be a Kli Roi to be worked with. And that's the idea of Dira B'Tachtenim. And that's the idea of Dira B'Tachtenim. And you had that already when they were standing in front of Midbar Sinai. So if we even had the idea of Dira B'Tachtenim, what was missing that happened by Matan Torah? What new thing happened by Matan Torah? And of course, there's also a question of what's the meaning of Shavuos and what's the meaning of Matan Torah. We're coming soon to celebrate Shavuos and Matan Torah. What is it that we're doing over here? But what is Matan Torah?
Oh, but you still didn't have it yet.
First, why I say we still didn't have it yet? The others were Mekayim the Torah. In other words, it's
not.
But what?
It wasn't. They didn't do the process of mitzvah.
Okay, so you mentioned it last week. It's true, and maybe it's connected to what Deb is going to explain, but you have to give more explanation.
Yeah.
So what what is it that happened with Matan Torah that we did not have before? In other words, like this. What if the Eibishter gave us the Torah, but not with the Maimed Har Sinai, not on the Eivin of Har Sinai? It's just the Eibishter told Moshe Rabbeinu these words. He wrote it down. He didn't go up to the top of Har Sinai. He didn't have a Yered Hashem al Har Sinai. We had that. It wouldn't be as dramatic. Good. That's what I'm saying. So Shavuos could either be a very dramatic Yom Tov, Lachem. We eat a milchik meal, right? You stay up late at night. Some people find that interesting. Whatever it is, right? Matan Torah, everybody stands up. It's very dramatic. Yeah, you have to face the armor. It sounds chitzenius. It's all childish. What's the meaning of Matan Torah? Okay, so the Hineksiv, Aidabelikim is called Varam Eila Lamer. Just before the Aseres Hadibris, the Eibishter precedes the Aseres Hadibris with these words that the Yadaber Elikim, the Eibishter spoke as called Varam Ha'ela. All of these words that are going to follow, Lamer to say, why does it say lamer over here? You can't say that lamer over here means to tell the others, right? You have it all over Chumash that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu lamer to say. What does lamer to say mean? In other words, tell the Yidden. What I'm telling you now, the Eibishter is speaking only to Moshe Rabbeinu, not to all of the Yidden, and therefore he tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Lamer, please say this to the Yidden. That's the Pirush of Lamer. And Taka, whenever you have a pasuk where all of the Yidden are there and all of the Yidden are hearing already, or it's something where it's not shaykh to say to the Yidden, so, and it says Lamer, so Rashi asks, why does it say Lamer? And each time he comes with a different reason why it says Lamer. But Lamer means to say to all of the Yidden. So why in this pasuk, which is talking about Maimed Har Sinai, when the Eibishter is about to say the Aseres Hadibros, why does it say Lamer? By Aseres Hadibros, you can't say by the lamer, by our lamer of Aseres Hadibros, that the Moshe Rabbeinu should tell all the other Yidden, should they call Yisrael Shamu? All of the Yidden themselves heard it. They heard it directly from the Eibishter. Maybe you're going to try to explain to me that lamer means to say to the Yidden of later generations, tell your children, and they should say to their children. That's the lamer. But the Pirkei Rabbi Lazar explains that the neshamas of all of the Yidden were there already, so every single one of us already heard it directly from the Eibishter. So what's the lamer say to them? All of them are already there, and they're already here. So listen to this part. What does lamer mean? That we were granted the kayach. Then when we learn the Torah 2,000 years later, 3,000 years later, the study of the Torah by us, every single individual, wherever he may be at any time that he may be in. When he learns Torah, it's not his own words that he is speaking, but rather he's speaking the Eibishter's words that the Eibishter put into his mouth. Or like David HaMelech says in Tehillim, that my tongue should repeat your words. Hainu, what does this mean? Anybody who either learns Torah Shemichsav or Torah Shebal Peh. Hainu HaKedah B'lvad. Even somebody who's only learning Torah Shemichsav, which has a Chesan like Torah Shebal Peh. Or somebody only has the mile of Torah Shebal Peh, but the mile of Torah Shemichsav he doesn't have. Or even somebody who, or certainly somebody who has both miles. The Eibishter is reading opposite him. What does it mean that the Eibishter is reading opposite him? That he is causing that the Eibishter should give over again, should reveal again, and should say again those same words from Matan Torah. The Yid causes that the Eibishter should say the Aseres Hadibros again. And that's why Taka the Gemara explains, I forgot on which pasuk, but the Gemara and Brachas Darshans from the pasuk, that you have to tell your children, you should remember the day. So the Gemara Darshans know that the Malahalim Be'ema Biro, it's going to get to Allah actually, that Malahalim Be'ema Biro Be'eses Ubezeh, just like with Matan Torah. What happened when the Yidden heard the Eibishter say that Aseres Hadibros? They were overcome with a fear and a trembling. So too, when a Yid learns Torah now, so he has to be overcome with a fear and a trembling. Why? Either why or how, or both of them. Why is it? Then Taka the Eibishter came and gave us that Aseres Hadibros. It was a massive, major Gili Milamayla. So it was Be'ema B'Yida B'Eses Ubezeh. Now it's later. I'm learning Torah. It's not the same thing l'chura like Matan Torah. So why does the Gemara demand, or how could the Gemara demand that it should be be'ema bir just like that day? So the beer is like we just said before, because when Abishtik gave that says Hadibis, he said lamer. That when you're going to be saying the words, you're going to be saying these words that I said. Lamer, you say these same words that I'm saying. You say Anoichi. That it's my words. It's the Abishtik's Anoichi that your mouth is speaking. In other words, it's the whole Gili Milamayla of Matan Torah and of the Sayas Hadibis that's happening right now. Also, the study of every single Yid, even many generations later, and in every place where he may be, it is mamish the words of Hashem that the Eibush spoke with Matan Torah. Okay, and this is the answer to all of our questions. So, or to the major question that we have, that when the Eibush gave Matan Torah, there was something new that happened over here. That this idea that the Yid is learning Torah here, he l'chura is using his own words, he is speaking, but whose words are they actually? It's the Eibush's words. It's the Eibush's words. When we pick up a chumash, in other words, and sit in shul and read a pasuk chumash or learn a gemara or learn chassidus or whatever it is that we're learning, like David mentioned, what we're doing over here, it's not that I'm saying these words. I said the pasuk vayemer. I learned the maimer or the chassidus or the gemara or whatever it is. It's pshat is over here that these words are the Eibushter's words mamish, and I'm saying the Eibushter's words with the whole shturim and the whole gili and the whole uftu of Aseres Hadibis. That's what happens every time that we learn Torah. How do we have the power to do that? So that was given to us by Matan Torah, and then we'll explain it more. Ubi Inyan. Dini b'Matan Torah nemer aneichi habayalekacha she'etzisicho me'eretz Mitzrayim. B'Matan Torah, the Eibishter says, Aneichi Hashem elikacha she'etzisicho me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am the Eibishter, your Eibishter, who took you out of Mitzrayim. And, I just want to go off on a tangent over here. I hope we won't distract too much, but the Rebbe gave a beautiful beer. That the Eibishter tells a Yid, you know what makes me Aneichi Hashem Elikecha? You know why I'm Aneichi Hashem Elikecha? Because of you, Asher Etzisicha Meretz Mitzrayim. You, the Yid, is what makes me Aneichi Hashem Elikecha. And the Rebbe says, look to which Yid the Eibishter is saying this. The Eibishter is saying this to the Yid who's in Mitzrayim. He is in such trouble. That if the Eibishter didn't come and take him out, he would have been lost and gone for forever. That's how low he fell, he stumbled. And yet, and perhaps especially, it's only because of you that I could say on myself that Anoichi.
I was born in Israel.
Mamash in Mitzrayim. I could say on myself that Anoichi, I am the Eibishter. On but that's not the word over here. I used to go to a Yid every Friday from Mitzrayim, from Cairo, Alexandria, I can't remember. But we're bringing all of the nations of the world to the Eibishter.
I came out when I was 4.
In what year?
1956.
All right. So every day you have to have a new Yetzias Mitzrayim.
I do.
You do. Very good. Okay. So we have over here like this, but over here the Rebbe doesn't say that. Pierce, this is just too geschmack to pass over. The Rebbe says like this: that Aneichi Hashem Elikecha she'etzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. In the Pirush HaPashut, when did what is the meaning of this pasuk? Aneichi Hashem Elikecha, who 50 days earlier I took you out of Mitzrayim. And if you want to say with the other beer that's explained, 7 days after that, there was the shleimus of Yetzias Mitzrayim by Kriyas Yamsuf. Right, so why should you listen to me? Why should you be makabel anything from me? Because you're obligated to Tzichem Mitzrayim in the past. The Rebbe teaches Aneichi Hashem Elikecha differently. Aneichi Hashem Elikecha she'etzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. That now, by Aseres Hadibis now, when I'm saying Aneichi Hashem Elikecha, I'm taking out of Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim is happening now. How does that work? Meaning mikol hamitzarim ugvulum medidus v'hagbolos. If the idea of Yetzias Mitzrayim is to break through all measures and all boundaries, to break through everything that limits us, that's the whole idea of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So when did that happen to the highest level? That happened dafke by Matan Torah. True Yetzias Mitzrayim didn't occur until Matan Torah. Before that, there was some breaking through of barriers, some transcending of limitations, but the true Yitzias Mitzrayim, breaking through everything that limits us and limits our ability and our potential, only happened by Matan Torah, only happened by Anochi Hashem Elikecha. So he's talking about something that happened now, not in the past. All of the tremendous things that occurred before that. They only affected, they only accomplished to the root, to the source of the creations. Or a little bit higher, they reached until the sheish of the Netzal. We'll come back to it in a moment. And as it's known, when we get to the chiddush of Matan Torah compared to the Aveda of the Abbas before, so he's saying over here is like this. You have a person, the way he is, a very limited creature down here in this world. And everybody understands that the way a person is as a human being, yesterday he wasn't here, today he's here, and tomorrow Vaited he's not here, and there's only so much he can affect and do, that he's very limited. He's very low. Then you have a human being, a Yid, is really what we're talking about. The way he stands in a higher level. You can start talking about his neshama, right? So his neshama already is something that is here forever. It didn't just come about. It's not limited by time and space. But still, the neshama has its own limitations. So then you could say you have the way the neshama is a little bit higher and higher. And ultimately, you could say the way the neshama stands in its source, in Elam Habriya, and the shadish of the Nivraim. The neshama is a nivra, it's a creation, the way it stands in the source of creations. Or if you want, you could go a little bit higher and say that still the fact that it's a creation limits it. And you could go higher to the source of the Ne'etzalim. Amen. Or you could go a little bit higher to the source of the Ne'etzalim. What's a nivra? What's a creation? A creation, you're saying over here that there's something over here that's new, it didn't exist before. Okay? Let's put it in the context of what we're talking about. We're saying that previously you only had the likus. Previously you only had the Eibishter. And now you have something new. If you're saying now you have something new, obviously what you're talking about is something very, very low, very, very limited, and something that's very separate from the Eibishter. In what sense is it new? It's saying that before the Eibishter created it, there was only the Eibishter. Now it exists also. So it's obviously something that's very outside of the Eibishter. Even the way it stands in Elam Habriya. Lagabi the Eibishter, it's a nivra, it's a creation, something very, very low, very, very limited. If you want to go one step up to Atzilus, to the Sheish of the Netzalim, or if you want to say the Sheish of the Netzalim is in the element saying stuff before Atzilus, what could you say? No, it's not that there's something new over here. It's something that is Netzel, something that emanated. What does it mean that it emanated? It was always there before within the Eibishter Kiviyachol. Now the Eibishter revealed it outside of himself. So we're not saying that something that wasn't there now exists, which is completely separate from the Eibishter. No, we're saying that this part of the Eibishter, that was always part of the Eibishter, now stands Kiviyachol outside of the Eibishter. It was revealed. When a person has a thought inside his head, so the thought is one with himself, or the emotion that's in his heart. The thought or the emotion is one with him. What happens when he says it to somebody else? He revealed it. It's a revelation. But this revelation just imposed the greatest restriction on it. The thought can't exist the way it is in my own head. The feeling can't exist to its truest sense and to its full beauty the way it is in my own heart. No, I have to limit it so that I can convey it to somebody outside of me. When you reveal something, you limit it to a very, very large extent. So it's not like the separateness of a nivra, of a creation, but it's still like the limitation of revealing something. Okay, so that's the idea of the Ne'etzalim. So a person in this world, you could try to go all the way up to his source, right? In other words, try to transcend the limitations of the physical body and go up to the neshama, and then try to transcend the limitations of the neshama and go up to the Ne'etzalim. But still, in the end of the day, you're dealing with something that's very limited to things that came from the Eibishter Kiviyachol, but not to the Matzil, not to the source of things, not to where they came from, not to the Eibishter Kiviyachol. Okay? Klar? Avram, make sense?
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with that. Okay. So all of the big
You
revelations.
can only go up to the realization that and that's how we know that where you came from.
Correct. Ultimately, but not higher.
Not
Before you existed, you can't touch that space. A space which is higher than your entire existence, you can never reach there. Okay? So all of the great revelations that happened before Matan Torah, they were all taka transcending our limitations. But still, to what point? Only to the point of where we came from, not beyond that. So in a way, it's still within the world of where we came from. We never departed our own world, no matter how high we went, even if we went into the Ilmas Ein Sof. And that was all until Matan Torah. Masha'en came to Matan Torah, however, by Matan Torah, something new, something novel happened that never was before, which was Hiskalus Hamatzil, the Abishter himself revealed himself. Ulumayla Yesed, and not only in the Madrega where we give the Abishter a certain description of the Matzil, of the one who from whom everything comes forth, but even higher than that, Hamshachas Ha'atzmas, where we're talking about a revelation of the Abishter, and that's level by the Abishter, which is Kivyochel beyond any description, beyond any definition. And that was revealed during the time of Matan Torah. And here's the key point. Are you going to tell me by Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Abishter also revealed himself? You do appears quick. This is Admon Shmasayin, the Bechvede, who Malchus Ein Sof, Shalif Neatzimtzum, who Ba'atzmai, who Tiferes, which this is Atzmos Ein Sof. The Rebbe Rashab teaches that Bechvede Ba'atzmai is either Malchus of Ein Sof, Shalif Neatzimtzum. No, it's not Malchus of the standard Malchus of Atzilus. And Ba'atzmai is going all the way up to Atzma. So we already had that revelation during Yetzias Mitzrayim. The key point over here is that revelation did not last. It was only for a moment, for one moment, where the Eibishter had to schlep the Yidden out of the Memtes Sha'arei Tumah. So the Eibishter came, we had the great revelation of Bechvede of Atzmai, but it didn't last, it didn't stay. And we will soon see what the significance of that is. It's very, very significant. The fact that it couldn't last is very, very significant to our point. So Taka, for a moment, we had the highest revelations even before Matan Torah, the revelation of Atzmos, before Matan Torah, but it didn't last. And then on the other hand, and so too, there's something missing with Aveda of Sfiras Haim, which came after Yetzias Mitzrayim, after we had the Niglalei Melech Hamlachim Kadosh Baruch Hu, which came Milamayla. The Yidden started the Aveda of Sfiras Haim in a Av Sheba Aveda Zuhel was called Hayamim, even though through this Aveda, notwithstanding the fact that through this Aveda they elevated all of the days. In other words, the creation in its entirety. I never thought about this until I read this Maimer, until I learned this Maimer. So those who learned the Chassidische Parsha know it. It's very strange. We say in Sfiras Haim and Hayim Shnei Yomim. Today is 2 days. What do you mean today is 2 days? Today is the second day. It's the second day. What's today's 2 days? It's like a child talking. It's like your kid asks you, how many days in the week is? Oh, today's 3 days in the week. You tell your kid, no, that's not the way you speak. Today's the third day of the week, right? So every night you say, Shnei Yomim Leimer. I never thought of that. Okay, so why do we say Taka Hayim Shnei Yomim? We can say Hayim Shnei Yomim, Hayim Yom Sheni. Excuse me. V'le Hayim Sheni, V'alderech Hayim Tisha B'Arbaim. Right, and we never learn. We keep going up until 49. We're still saying today is 49 days of the Eimer. We don't use the ordinal number. Because every single day we also elevate and bring to the new height all of the days that we had before. So on day one, we had only 1 day, and we elevated it to wherever it could get to, but not with the mila of the second day. The second day, we're elevating Vaita, but we're still taking with us, and we're still elevating the first day. So we're taka counting, like how many days do we have in our bag? We have 49 days. We have all of the days from before. We're lifting them and elevating again and again until we elevate the entire, all of the Sheva Midas, the way they're all called from 7, all of the Yomim, all of creation. So we have it full in full. The and then it goes up even to the higher level where it gets the Madrega of Tmimis Tiyana. They are whole and complete. It also is very connected to us. It has the Maila of Lachem. Nevertheless, compared to the revelation of the next day, the day of Matan Torah, it's all called, you're still in Mitzrayim, and the Eibishter still has to come to you and say, you need to go out of your limitations and boundaries. Why? because this Aveda is only to the point of where a creation can reach. In other words, the Eva is telling us in this ice that there's two models that we could take. Okay, each one has its Maila, and each one has its Chesaron. We can either take the model of Nigla Aleim Melech Malchim Lachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ga'olam, where the revelation we reach. How do we reach new heights? By revelation from above. The Eibishter reveals himself, and he sweeps everything up with him. He takes everything up with him. What's the Maila? That there's no limit to how high that revelation can be. Since the revelation is coming from the Eibishter, so the revelation is as high as Kivyochel the Eibishter is. The Eibishter is beyond being high. So there's no limit to the revelation. What's the Chesaron? It's only temporary. It remains only for a moment and then it goes away. And even if the Eibishter continue doing it every moment, it's still temporary. Even while it's happening, it's temporary. Why? Why does it disappear? Why does it come and go? What kind of a thing comes and goes? Right? Something that's not part of me comes and goes. My heart, my mind is always with me. Right? So whatever is part of me remains with me. Things that are outside of me, things that I was given by somebody else, but don't belong to me. If I'm sitting and somebody's teaching me something that's way beyond my knowledge, he taught it to me. A year later, it's not going to be part of me anymore because it was given to me from above. So it's temporary even while it's here. It's not part of me. It didn't become one with me. So Taka, you can reach the highest level, but it's not really with you. It's not really yours, and that's the chesaron. There's no problem in how high the revelation was. The problem is that it didn't really permeate you. It remained him. And what could you accomplish with that? With that, you could accomplish that you could remove the Tachtainim, but you can't elevate the Tachtainim. You could remove them. You could overpower them. You could overwhelm them. You could destroy them, but you can't elevate them. So you're going to take the second model. What's the second approach? The second approach is we're not going to get a revelation from above. We're going to work with our power and on our level from down here. We're going to work step after step at the level that we're at. That's the second model. What's the Maila? The Maila is that it's mine. I become transformed. I'm changed and it remains with me. It's permanent. It's with me. It's not from outside of me. What's the Chesaron? The Chesaron is that there's only so far that I can go. That's the Aveda of Sfiras Eimer. I can only reach up to my source. I can't reach beyond myself. How's a person supposed to reach beyond himself? It's impossible. And those were the two models, the two options that we had before Matan Torah. It could either be the Eibishter reveals himself from above, and then it's going to be a very high revelation, but it's going to be foreign. It's going to be external to this world. Or you can have the Yid does his Aveda from down below, and then it's going to be part of the Yid, part of this world, but it's going to be very limited. It's not going to be a very high revelation. Those were the two models that existed before Matan Torah. In Matan Torah, we have something entirely new that happened. So let's see what happened by Matan Torah. What was the novelty of Matan Torah? Who Shahaya Vayed Hashem al Har Sinai, that the Eibishter came down on Har Sinai. This wasn't understood. Just the Achidus to Matan Torah who
I have to get you back because you made a whole book. You smack around the tool that Shabbos? I got you back.
Don't stop listening to this.
the Achidus to Matan Torah who what was the novelty of Matan Torah? Shahaya Vayed Hashem al Har Sinai, that the Eibishter descended onto Har Sinai, like it says in the Medrash, that there was the Gzeda, a muscle of a Gzeda of Rome. Rome was the capital, and that's where Kivyochel, the elite, the Spitz lived, and then there were all the provinces. So Syria was a province of Rome. So those lowly Syrians who were conquered by the Romans, so now they're part of the Roman Empire, but it's the Smetanets, the Chashivas of Rome, they don't reach. So the Melech was Gezer. We're not going to allow the classes to mix. This is before the new, the sensibilities of today. So Bnei Rami lo yerdu l'Syria. What if somebody from Rome wants to go down to Syria? I'm going to say, no, you're ashamed to your whole family. We're not going to allow this. You can't go to Syria. And Bnei Syria lo yalu l'Rami. The people who live out in the provinces, we're not going to allow them to enter into Rome. This is the muscle that the Medrash gives. And it was the same thing in the world. That holiness, Kedusha, Likus, was not allowed to come into this world, and things from this world were not allowed to ascend and become part of Kedusha. There was this bifurcation. There were two existences, two worlds. The reality of Kedusha, the reality of physicality, and you couldn't mix between the two. And what happened by Matan Torah? Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai. The Eibishter said, just like the king said that he's being mevatel the Gzeira, that you could go down to Syria, and so the people from Syria could go up to Rome. So the Eibishter said, Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai, I'm destroying this barrier, this division, this separation. I'm taking it away. Yeah, that the Eibishter could be revealed in this world, and the Yid could go up and become included in the Eibishter. That's what happened in Matan Torah, and that's expressed in the word. First of all, Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai, that the Eibishter came down to Har Sinai, and then we'll see in a moment that the Eibishter told Moshe Rabbeinu, you could come up to the mountain. So we had Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai, the Eibishter rescinded the decree, and he said, and I'm going to go down to the Tachtin, Vani HaMaschil, and critically the Eibishter said, I am the one who's going to start it. Which says, could you imagine that for generations, the people of Syria were never allowed to go to Rome, the people of Rome were never allowed to go to Syria, and the king makes a proclamation, and he says that now you're allowed. You could go from Syria to here, you could go from Rome to here, everything is good. And it passes a day, another day, everybody's afraid. They never saw anybody do this. They're standing over there. You just can't, there's something, it's so built in. I belong in Syria, I belong in Rome, that they couldn't. The king wanted that they should mix. So what did the king do? He said, I'll show an example, and I'm going to go down to Syria. And once I go down to Syria, so certainly all the people from Rome could follow me and go to Syria, and also the people of Syria no longer feel disconnected. If the king came to me, I could probably also come to the king's place. So the Eibishter said, the Eibishter is the one, this bittul of the Gzeira, that now we could mix these two worlds, these two realities of Elikus and this world. We don't do it on our own power. It's done on the Eibishter's power. Vani HaMaschil. The Eibishter is through him that we do this Aveda. We'll talk about that in a moment, because that's the key point. Well, Moshe Amar Alei, and so to the Eibishter told Moshe Rabbeinu, now you can come up to Lamaila. But your aliyah, your alei, isn't such a even that's mitzad and it's in his kech milamayla. And that was going to explain. During the time of his Tzias Mitzrayim, even though you had the revelation milamayla, the problem is that the revelation came from above, and therefore it did not become one with the creations, and therefore it was temporary. Not only later it was temporary, even while it happened it was temporary. Shenkin, on the other hand, the Aved of Sfiras Ha'emer, which was very much part of the creations, nevertheless, was only to the level and to the degree that our creation is able to reach. And even though the creation, the person, can reach very, very high, in the end of the day, the work of a person. He goes from level to level and keeps completing his work, and he keeps reaching higher and higher. The entire Aveda is limited. It's measured and limited. We had this this impossible combination. The Eibishter gave us the Keach Milamayla, and therefore we're no longer limited by our own limitations. But nevertheless, it was Be'efen Shenis Achtoim Hanivroim. The Nesinas Keach that came Milamayla became one with the creations. It's not something that came from that's done from above. What does it mean, B'Pail? The Eibishter connected us with himself in a way that it gives us the power that through our Aveda we can touch and reach even beyond our source. Remember we said before that at the end of the day, the person can only reach as high as his source at the most. And that's true before Matan Torah. But Matan Torah, the Eibishter gave us the koyach that through our own Aveda, we should be able to affect and reach and connect with things that are beyond our source. So in other words, the Eibishter didn't come and say, I'm going to do the work for you. He said, no, you do the work. What the Eibishter did is that when you do the work, you're no longer going to be limited by your own limitation. When you do the work, you're going to be able to affect things that are way beyond you, all the way to L'mayla. And this is something that's only b'kayach and I don't think you could explain it rationally. In other words, if you try to explain it, it's b'kayach atzmus l'chora this way. If you try to explain it, then you're going to end up either taking away the L'mayla, or you're going to say that there's no mata. You're going to end up back in the same paradox. The word of Matan Torah is that the Eibishter did this combination, the Va'ani HaMaskal. That's why Taka, you needed Va'ani HaMaskal. Without Va'ani HaMaskal, it can't work. This idea that a person could do his Aveda, 100% it's his Aveda. He's a human being in this world. Does anybody have any doubt that when we learn Torah and do mitzvahs, and when we try to get through our day over here in this world, does any person have any doubt that they're human? I have no doubt. It feels to me very, very much like a human being. I don't feel like, you understand what I'm trying to say? I'm not supposed to speak negatively, yeah, but I feel very much my humanity as I try to serve the Eibishter. Okay, we'll speak B'Lashon Nikiya. So it's very much me. So I'm doing Torah and mitzvahs. It's after Matan Torah. Nevertheless, I'm very much a human being. Without a doubt, there's no question about it. Hold on. And nevertheless, this Aveda that I'm doing as a human being causes the coming of Mashiach. This is the coming of Mashiach is going to be Matan Torah every day. We're going to have the revelation of Matan Torah in a permanent way. So I'm affecting that there should be the Gili of Atzmus, even though I know certainly that I'm a human being. I remain the Tachten. Nevertheless, because I'm doing my Aveda B'Kayach of the Eibishter, so I reach higher than my own source, that the work of the human being can reveal Atzmus in itself in this world. It's this combination that the Eibishter made, and the Va'ani HaMaskal, he's the one who did it. And that's the Chiddush of Matan Torah. Before that, I would be a human being, and I would be doing my work as a human being, and I would only reach as far as a human being can reach. That was one way. Or the Eibishter would reveal himself, Parcha Nishmasam. I would be completely gone. I wouldn't exist anymore. Maybe I would exist, but it wouldn't be me anymore. It would simply be a reflection of the Eibishter. There would be no Tachta. That was before Matan Torah. After Matan Torah, I remain a human being, and I'm doing my Aveda as a human being, and nevertheless, I'm touching and I'm accomplishing the revelation of Atzmus in this world because the Eibishter gave me the koyach to do it. Not because it makes sense, but because the Eibishter gave me the koyach to do it. And that's what happened by Matan Torah. Why? How's such a thing even possible? The Eibishter gave us the koyach. That did not exist before Matan Torah, and that's the Chiddush of Matan Torah. In other words, when we said before that we had Dira B'Tachtenim already, which we mentioned, which we learned last week, something was missing in the Tachtenim. We were working on the Tachtenim, we were elevating the Tachtenim, we were refining the Tachtenim, but they weren't refined to something that's beyond their level. They still remained within the limitations of Tachten, maybe as a netzel, maybe as just a Nivla and Elam Abriya, but they were still limited to being Tachtenim. Either that, or you could say that the problem with Dira B'Tachtenim before is that it wasn't the Gili of the Atzmus. I'm not sure how to understand that. Right? What was the problem with Dira B'Tachtenim that David said we already had the moment we arrived at Midbar Sinai? So either the Tachten was lifted up only so high, or the Elyon that was revealed wasn't so high. Whichever one it was, but it wasn't complete. It was a Dira B'Tachtenim, but it wasn't a true Dira, or it wasn't a true Tachtenim, whichever one. After Matan Torah, we have the true Dira B'Tachtenim. You're dealing with a Tachten that's a Tachten. And you're dealing with Loy Latzmusay. And it's done also through the Tachten, not through the Eibishter. So in all aspects, in all dimensions, the Dira is made by the people, for the people, in the Tachtenim, through the Tachtenim. The Dira is made. But for who is the Dira? It's not for the people. By who's for who is it? It's for Atzmusay. It's for the Eibishter. Okay? So it's of the people, by the people, for the Eibishter.
So what's the
And this is the difference. Yeah, it's not for the people. And that's taka why America's falling apart now. Because by the people, for the people is by the people, of the people is taka a big chiddush and a very high madrega. But if it's for the people, if it's all selfish, and if it's all about me, sooner or later, maybe we'll take 100 years, 200 years, 250 years. It's not going to work so well. Huh? Yeah.
So whereas before, now we have the Indian of Natal the Mama, we also have the Indian of Natal. So which is the more advantageous, or I don't know advantageous, but which is the better? You start off with Natal the Mama, and you get it as oilers when Mama. I mean, how are the being that the all want the way you explained it, right? So what and
What
it's
comes
not
first?
avoided. It's not avoided.
Mitzad Aveda, what comes first is you always start with
Natal the Mama.
and step by step. He's not talking over here about how should a person go about working on himself. What he's talking about over here is when I do a mitzvah,
Yeah.
whichever level I'm holding in. It's not about my personal Aveda. What gets accomplished? What happens?
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about. He's not giving over here a Seder and Aveda. He's talking about is what happens. Seder and Aveda, how you go about your work is that's a different passion. But over here we're saying that when you do your work, at whatever level you are, what is accomplished? So what's accomplished is
What comes first? The service from the Mila, the system of the
so the assistant that's the Achris is
exactly, and for you to have this service, there has to be a system of the Mila.
Yeah.
Right.
But the bottom line is when you do a mitzvah, you're connecting with the Eibishter himself. You're connecting the world with the Eibishter himself. It's known the Torah of the Arizal that these days are remembered and done. Hainu, how does the Arizal tie this pasuk? That that they're not only remembered, but they're done. In other words, they're accomplished anew. Every time. Why do we keep celebrating the Yom Tov again and again and again and again? Because whatever happened the first time didn't really happen to the level that it's going to happen this year. Matan Torah this year, like we're going to see in a moment, is going to be on a higher level than it ever was before. So that's the Vanasim part. Well, that's the Bishana so too in this year, the Gam, La'achar Shlemus Haveda, the Shav Shabbos is Tmimis Tiyana, even after the Shlemus of the Haveda of Sfiras HaEmer, Uba Eifen de Lachem, Ubefrat, Shefiyus, Shana Zuhi Shasim, Hashav Shabbos is Ubeshabbos. That year, the 7 days of the week aligned with each week of the 7 days of the 7 weeks of Sfiras HaEmer. In other words, Sunday was the first day of the Emer, etc., which explained that has in it an extra mile of Tmimis. Sha'azhin Tmimis Kipshuta, Ikadis of Medish, Shazeu Neisif Lamashaya Pirsha Beisha Medish. Demis Ahin Tmimis, Bisman Shisalis and Insanishal Makim. Instead of saying that there's the mile of Shev Shabbos is Tmimis, because the Yidden did the Aveda in Aifin where they were doing what the Eibishter wants. And in addition to that, that year when David said this moment, of course today we're standing on top of that accomplishment, was also the Indian of Shev Shabbos is Tmimis, that there were literally 7 weeks which were aligned with the 7 days of the week. All of those milas and any other mila is still a limitation compared to the Gili of Matan Torah. And Deb explains what he's saying because you may have missed the point. We already had Matan Torah before. The Achar Kach, and then we added on top of that, after Shavuos of last year, we continued, we came to Tishrei, etc. Then we came to Pesach just now, and then we're now in the Aved of Sfiras HaEmer, and then we're coming very soon, so it's connected to the idea of Shlish Zuch B'Kitev. It's connected also to the B'Chedesh HaShlishi. It has a further connection. Which Matan Torah was on the third day of the Shlishi Shemei Hagbala. So in other words, like this, what Deb is saying is we had Matan Torah last year. If we had Matan Torah last year, why are we doing the Aveda of Yitzias Mitzrayim?
Yeah, it's much higher.
It's much higher, right?
And also, why another question I have is why we say the Mantiska is saying the Yitzias Mitzrayim is every single day. So the Matan Torah should be every single day.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Did it
But l'chora
percent.
it is. If we say that Matan Torah is Yitzias Mitzrayim, so l'chora it applies. L'chora mitzvah that it applies. Narvas, legabe where we're headed after Shavuos of Tavshin Pei Gimel, legabe where we're headed to the Tavshin Pei Dalid. Shavuos Tavshin Pei Gimel was b'Hagbala, was b'Medida b'Hagbala, and it's legabe this new level that we're going to reach soon on Shavuos, that we're still in Pesach of this year, b'Medida b'Hagbala compared to next Shavuos. Compared to last Shavuos, we're talking beyond Medida b'Hagbala, because Shavuos brought us beyond limitation. But every year in this Karim V'Nasim, and it happens on a completely, entirely higher level. So legabe where we're going to reach soon in Shavuos this year, the Aveda that we did now in Pesach and in Sfiras HaEmer is b'Medida b'Hagbala. And we're now reaching towards Matan Torah. And that was followed up with Hakdamas Nasa Lishma Be'erev Chag HaShavuos, which when the Rebbe said this Hoya Ha'inyan, because it was already, the Rebbe was saying this already on Erev Shavuos. But soon we're also going to reach the Maila of Erev Shavuos. When was that? When we had Hakdamas Nasa Lishma, Hine Kol Ze Eine Be'erech Ilish of Matan Torah. It does not compare to the revelation of Matan Torah. She'oz Nasa Bilbul B'chol Seder Ha'ishtal Shalos V'Iskalus B'chol Einyan. Why? Because by Matan Torah there was a bilbul, a complete stirring of the pot. Everything was mixed up. Everything was taken out of its predefined boundaries, and everything became one. And that's why Matan Torah they were able to see things that are ordinarily heard, and things that are heard were able to be seen. In other words, it was a complete remake, if you wish, or a complete taking apart of the limitations of Seder Shtalshlus. The idea of Seder Shtalshlus is you're here. You start here, you end here, and that's it. And the next thing starts here and ends there. They don't mix. They're not one. But Matan Torah, there was a complete bilbul in this, that the Elyenim were able to come down to the Tachtenim. The Tachtenim were able to go up to the Elyenim. So we mixed everything. There was a complete bilbul. And that's the whole vart. That if before, you could either have a revelation milamaila, but it's not going to really become one with the mata, or you could work milamata, but you're not going to reach as high as the maila. After Matan Torah and during Matan Torah, we accomplished that now you can mix them all. The person milamata could do his aveda as a mata, and still he could accomplish and affect bringing down atzmus, the highest revelation, down here into this world. To put it into two words, to help sort of remember the nakuda of this maimer, is that before Matan Torah, we taka had Oz v'Toshia, we taka had great revelations milamaila, and we taka affected and worked with the mata, the Toshia, right? But still it was limited. By Matan Torah, what did we have? Toshia, we learned last week, means the weakening of this world. In other words, the refinement of this world and its elevation. By Matan Torah, what did we have? Lamer, that the Eibishter said that when you learn Torah down here as a human being in this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Keda V'Sheina Kenegdoi, you're bringing about the revelation of Atzmos Ein Sof. So by Matan Torah we had the Ili of Lamer, or we had the Ili of Ani HaMaschil, that the Eibishter gave us in the Sinas Kayach, that through our Aveda Lamata, we should be able to bring about the highest revelations Milamayla. V'yiratzin Shenashlim is Kol HaAchanis L'Matan Torah B'Shleimusam. This the Rebbe said mere hours before Shavuos started. So we have a little bit more time to finish all of the Achanis Matan Torah B'Shleimus. V'tiyah Kabbalah Satera B'Simcha B'Pnimis. And we should all have Kabbalah Satera with joy, and B'Pnimis Kalashni Doda Kritus made V'chamei Adon and Sidrenel, as the lashon of the bracha of the Fidik Rebbe for Shavuos was. And as the Rebbe explains that when it's B'Simcha, then it comes B'Pnimis. Umizman Matan Torah Yimshach Zeh Al Kol Hashana Kula, and it shouldn't only be an event that happens on Shavuos and then we lose it. Of course, it gets it continues throughout the Aved of the entire year. Shetia Shnas Teira, Shnas Eiro, Shnas Geula. It should be a year of Teira, a year of light, and a year of redemption. Bebias Mashiach Tzidkenu, Sheilam Teira Kol Ha'olam Kulei, with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, who will teach Teira to the entire world without any limitation whatsoever. Ubekariv Mamash may be speedily now in our times.
Amen.
Good Yom Tov, Zayin Kabbalah Teira B'Simcha B'Pnimius. All right.